Did you know that there were some people that were really blue? Hi, I'm Steffi from Books That Teach Us. And today we are going to talk about this incredible book where I learned so much from it called The Book Woman of Troublesome Creek by Kim Michele Richardson. First, before I launch in, I want to tell you about my book globe. I'm so excited to share my book globe with you all. I have been working on this interactive clickable map which spins and gives you book recommendations, all curated and read by me from all around the world. Every time I read a book from a new country, I will add it to the map, so the map is only going to keep on growing. So one of the favorite things to do, as some of you might know, is I'm browsing in the library. I pick a book that kind of starts to look interesting and I love it. And that is exactly what happened with this story. So I picked up this book and I started reading the first page, and it started talking about someone's skin color being blue. Like really blue. And I was thinking, is this some kind of fantasy avatar type thing? So before I continued reading, I had a quick Google, because as many of you know, sci-fi and fantasy is not totally my jam, but historical fiction definitely is, which is this book. There were really a family of people whose skin color was blue. It was a whole extended family in the Appalachian Mountains, and they had something called congenital methemoglobinemia, which basically is quite a rare inherited disease that affected the color of their red blood cells. And it meant that their skin color appeared blue and their blood appeared brown. I absolutely could not believe this. And if you've heard of this particular family, please drop me a comment below, because was really astounded. And one of the things that happened with this family, before I launch into my book review, was that because it was in such a remote area of the Appalachian Mountains, people would often end up intermarrying within the same family. And that's how that's how there were so many people in the family that happened to have this very rare disease. Now, actually, the disease didn't affect them in any other way apart physically, other than the color of their skin. But as this book depicts, there was very likely a lot of discrimination about their skin tone. The other amazing thing that I learned about in this book was about a group of women called the Pack Horse Librarians. These were badass women who traveled all over the Appalachian Mountains in insane conditions, in the snow, on donkeys, on asses, and they would deliver library books to very remote communities so that they could have an opportunity to learn, to read. They would often create these scrapbooks that could be passed along throughout the communities, where people would write down recipes or herbal cures for common illnesses. And they really connected all of these very, very remote communities, some of whom were just houses, very sparsely, houses very far away from other people. So they really had no connection with the outside world. In fact, when I started reading this book, I thought, oh my gosh, this must be kind of like before electricity, because they're using candles and things. However, it's simply because these people are in such remote locations that they don't have access to electricity. So it's really set in around the 1930s in Kentucky. It follows this amazing story of a woman called Cussie, who is a pack horse librarian. It's very unusual at this time for women to be working. She's incredibly proud that she can read, that she's a good reader, and her worst nightmare is to be married off, because married women were not allowed to work as pack horse librarians. It would be very rare for them to do so at this time period. I would definitely say this book is for probably 16 plus. There's some very graphic sexual violence that happens in the book, and it's very upsetting. I reckon it's probably quite realistic at the time without giving too much away, as this is a spoiler-free book review. Troublesome Creek is a real place. And I think one of the other things that I really learned, apart from this incredible Blue family and the amazing Pet Course librarians, was about the challenges of poverty. I might do a books on poverty #2, and this would definitely take part in it, because the scrabbling around for food, the desperation, if there was a medical situation where someone needed to pay a doctor, it's really, really raw in this. There's desperately sad things connected with babies being born and just all the horrific things that living in poverty and the conditions there can do to people. There's a really big twist towards the end. And it's one of those books where when I was reading it, I was really worried, like, is this going to have a happy ending? And you really don't know right up until the final part. And I'm not going to give you any spoilers if Cussie is going to get a happy ending or not, because it is one of those books that is quite traumatic to read and things could go either way. I love it when a book like gives me like a little research project to go on. And this definitely did, both with the blue-skinned people of Kentucky and with the Pack Horse librarians, where I went on a big, deep dive to find out about them. And there are pictures of them on the internet riding through the snow, and so much so that they knew the importance of books and how essential they were to their communities. So that was something really, really special that I learned about from this book. I also thought the way that Kim Michele Richardson writes about poverty made me think, I wonder if she's experienced this herself. And indeed she has. She shares a little bit at the end of my version, a conversation with the author. She actually shares that she spent the first decade of her life in a rural orphanage in Kentucky and then moved on to foster care and ended up being homeless at age 14. And I feel like the desperation and the deep-rooted upset and trauma caused by poverty are really apparent in this book, even though it's set so much earlier than the current day. If you were looking for a book that you feel strong enough to read mentally, because there are some upsetting scenes that happen in it, and you want to know about the amazing librarians and about these incredible blue-skinned people of Kentucky, then I cannot recommend this enough. I think this is going to be one of my top books that I've read in the last few months. I'm going to be making a whole episode soon about my top 10 books ever. I'm going to talk about all the best books that I read last year that I recommend for you guys as well. So definitely, historical fiction lovers, put this one on your list.